my fellow Americans. My name is Anthony Catella of St. Charles, Illinois. I am a citizen imbued with a sense of civic virtue and ritual. I always have been and shall be until my dying days. And I intend to live a long life of service to our country. This November 6th, we will come to a decision point as we engage in our civic ritual of voting for our public officials in a free election. The choice is between two parties of historic importance, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and even some independent and third-party candidates. This election season, like all election seasons, reminds me of what President Woodrow Wilson once said when he asked, "Of what use is a political party unless the nation seeks to use that party to accomplish a great occasion?" In this vote harvesting season, we have another opportunity to elect a political party to serve the nation and accomplish a great occasion. In this time of electioneering, I bid us to ask the question, for what purpose will the people of this country choose either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party? Election season should not merely be a political season, but rather a time of reawakened national patriotism. We must ask ourselves, can we rise above the partisan sniping and actually be a country uniting? The two parties can rise above the partisanship by focusing on our common patriotism, which galvanizes us and fills us with a resolve to serve and move this country ever forward and ever upward. I refuse to believe that we as a nation are as divided as we appear to be. If we really are divided as it appears to be, then I suggest 2 points to bring the country together. First, we need to reduce the undue influence of money and special interest groups in politics. This is not easy, because most incumbents are beholden to the special interest groups, and most candidates find themselves giving a promise to this group or that. Number 2, our politicians must reduce the level of partisanship and power plays one over the other party. Remember, the party is chosen by the people, the voters, to accomplish a great occasion, supposedly for the benefit of the body politic, we the people. The problem always seems to be that when one party is in the minority, that it blocks the majority. In a cabinet parliamentary form of government, such as they have in England, the majority is a coalition government that enacts its program, and it actually is given a chance to work. When the opposition party regains control of the government, they can change what the previous prime minister did for something new. This seems a lot better than gridlock government. But I have a sinking feeling that many in power in our government benefit from this gridlock and therefore like this divided kind of government. Well, we must ask ourselves, is this good for the politicians or is it good for the people? Although some people believe we are a divided republic between two camps, liberal and conservative, let me hasten to say that across the gulfs and barriers that divide us, there need not be permanent enemies. As Abraham Lincoln said of North and South in the Civil War, we are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. As John F. Kennedy said of the conflict between East and West in the Cold War, no government or social system is so evil that its people need be considered as lacking in virtue. Thomas Jefferson, in his inaugural address of 1801, said of divided American camps, "We are all Republicans. We are all Federalists." Though Americans of those two camps in Jefferson's day were at odds, Jefferson knew at heart we are all brothers of the same principle, because then as now, we are Americans one and all. The principle of America is that we are one nation, east, west, north, and south. One nation, the first of its kind in the history of the world. We are indeed the land of e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Jefferson was one of our founding fathers, and he, with Adams and Franklin and Madison and Hamilton, founded not merely a political party, but a nation. The United States of America. We are a nation with its separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle us. This is the essence of our nationalism, and it is a gift from God. Nationalism is not in itself a bad thing, especially if it is fortified with altruism, love of one's fellow man. Nationalism, love of country, and a sense of duty to one's country above anything else and a love for one's fellow man in altruism, these are the two ideals which can help us build a better life. 10 score years ago, that's 200 years ago, when James Monroe was our 5th president, our nation was united by a spirit called the era of good feeling, because all Americans were united with a new spirit of independence and nationalism. We had emerged victorious from our second and last war with England, and the only political party was the Democratic-Republican Party of Jefferson. Andrew Jackson and his followers later formed the Democratic Party. We had a party, but no vast gulfs of division, because we were all united by one philosophy, the philosophy of a government of limited powers and maximum liberty under law. This philosophy has been time-tested and is the surest road away from tyranny and the preservation of our liberty, so essential to the American spirit and form of representative government. Recently, I read an article in the New York Times by David Brooks entitled A Smarter Look at America's Divide. And in the article, he reasoned there are many groups in the political demographic of our country, but there are two main groups, devoted conservatives and progressive activists. I have therefore concluded the choice in this election is between these two groups and their visions. One is a view that all social constructs are inherently evil and must be taken down and replaced by new ones. Those people that take down and build up again will inevitably discover the problems they sought to do away with are still with us. These could be the very people who say we must fundamentally change the country and the Constitution. Well, what would they replace it with? A country of higher taxes and bigger government? This is the very notion the patriots at Lexington and Concord took up arms against in April of 1775. The other view is of those who know society's constructs are imperfect only because the problem is with man. Society is imperfect because man is a sinner. This is why society is troubled. No matter what the solutions are called, the good society or the great society, it is always a society beset with troubles. And this is not defeatism, but simple realism. Could it be this good society, great society paradigm is really a federal government grown too big? What is the answer? The answer? The answer is to take man and society as they are and do the very best we can with our two most precious national treasures, our people and our resources. We know the answer theologically is not in man alone, but in the Redeemer of man, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In saying this, I mean not to alienate my fellow non-Christian citizens, but I do mean to speak from my vantage point as a Christian citizen. The answer is not solely to rely on government to solve our common problems, but on our own ingenuity. The answer is that government is not the only answer to our problems. It is found in the genius of the American people. To me, this seems to be the path on which to walk. It is, as the scriptures tell us, the path of the just, which as a shining light shineth more and more unto the perfect day. It is the path known by our history and progress. It has been the thoroughfare for freedom beat across the wilderness by our pioneers of old. As Walt Whitman would sing, "Oh, pioneers, oh, pioneers." The Democratic-Republican Party of Jefferson and Jackson became the Republican Party of Lincoln by way of the Whig Party, which came out of the Federalist Party, but then the Whigs and disenchanted Democrats of the North and Free Soil West coalesced into the Republican Party. From 1854 onward, we've had the two major political parties of the Democrats and the Republicans. How do we resolve the divisions, real or imagined, of our time? The Republican Party's first president, Abraham Lincoln, may provide the answer. He believed then, and we can believe now, that the mystic chords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave, all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature. The mystic chords of memory. This says to us that in the present our past is yet with us, and it guides us. It calls to mind also something of Winston Churchill, who mused, "When great forces are on the move in the world, we find we are spirit and not animal. And there is something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty." the better angels of our nature, these are to remind us of who we are. Though flawed and imperfect, we are still a good and a great country. We are the center of the stage of history. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence listed the inalienable rights of man, which come not from the state, but from God. The great principle is that government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. In 1787, the Constitution defined a government based on that great principle as a government of limited powers, separation of powers, and checks and balances, to the end that no man becomes a tyrant and no group prevails unless their cause has a true concern for the governed and the general welfare. Unless their cause has a true concern for the governed and the general welfare. In 1791, the Bill of Rights enumerated our personal, legal, and civil rights to which we are entitled with equal justice under law. The rights listed in the Bill of Rights are the barrier between the citizens and their government, and they are something every free man is entitled to against every form of government on earth. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln, on Gettysburg's battlefield, gave this nation 3 resolves as loud as thunder, as swift as lightning. 1, that our battle dead shall not have died in vain. 2, that we are a nation under God, and shall receive from him, under his smile benign in his own good time, a new birth of freedom. And 3, number 3, our republic is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and through our vigilance, our eternal vigilance, it shall not perish from the earth. We today are standing center stage of history. Let us, each and every one of us, my fellow citizens, act well our part. Upon reflection, we know from our history that we have the best form of human liberty yet devised by the genius of man and blessed by the providence of God. I therefore believe, and bid you believe with me, my fellow citizens, that it has been, we, the nation of America, have been, are now, and ever shall be, in an historic role to be the defender of freedom and the leader of liberty, to be a country in whom all of our fellow citizens of this great republic and all of our fellow citizens around the world can have a sense of pride, a sense of participation, and a sense of mutual progress. Herein is the greatness of American society. Herein is the greatness of America. And so, my fellow Americans, the trumpet summons us once again to wield the sword of democracy, to decide once again to be free to vote for American liberty. Thank you very much.